He wasn't even supposed to be watching the game that night. But when Marcus turned on the TV and saw his wife kissing another man on live national television, he didn't scream. He didn't throw anything. He just sat there, in his recliner, holding a bowl of popcorn, watching his entire life fall apart in HD. Marcus Reed was a simple man. 38 years old, a high school history teacher in Columbus, Ohio. He drove a 2011 Honda Accord with a crack in the bumper. He packed his own lunch every day, usually a turkey sandwich and a bag of pretzels, because money was tight and he didn't mind. He coached junior varsity basketball on weekends for free because he believed the kids needed someone who showed up. He was, by every measure, a good man. His wife, Danielle, was everything he never thought he deserved. Beautiful, sharp, ambitious. She worked in marketing for a mid-sized company downtown and was always dressed like she had somewhere important to be. When they met 12 years ago at a mutual friend's cookout in Dayton, she laughed at his terrible jokes and said, "You're either really funny or I've had too much lemonade." He married her 2 years later in a small ceremony in her mother's backyard. They had a daughter, Zoe, 9 years old, obsessed with dinosaurs and strawberry milk. Zoe was the best thing either of them had ever done. Marcus wasn't the kind of man who checked his wife's phone. He never had a reason to. It was a Friday night in October. Zoe was asleep. Marcus had ordered wings, cracked open a soda, and was watching the halftime show of a nationally televised college football game. The camera swept across the VIP section of the stadium, the luxury boxes, the sponsors, the smiling faces of the powerful and the wealthy. And there she was. Danielle. In a black dress he'd never seen before. Sitting beside a man Marcus had never met. Laughing. Leaning in. And then, as if the universe decided one wound wasn't enough, the man turned, cupped her face in his hands, and kissed her. Full screen. Live TV. 40 million viewers. Marcus set the popcorn down very slowly. He sat in silence for 4 full minutes. He knew because he counted. Then he picked up his phone and called her. It rang. And rang. And rang. She didn't pick up. He didn't confront her that night. He needed to think. He needed to breathe. He needed to make sure Zoe was okay. When Danielle came home at 2 a.m., she said she'd been at a work event. Networking. She kissed Marcus on the forehead, and went to bed. He lay in the dark and stared at the ceiling for 6 hours. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus became a different kind of quiet. He started paying attention to things he trained himself not to notice. The late nights. The perfume she wore on Tuesdays. The way her phone was always face down now. The password she'd changed on her laptop. He hired a private investigator, a woman named Gloria Marsh, retired police detective, no nonsense, $50 an hour. It felt like the most embarrassing thing he'd ever done in his life. Gloria handed him a folder 10 days later. His hands shook opening it. The man in the folder was named Derek Callahan. 45. CEO of a real estate development company. 3 properties in Columbus, 1 in Miami. Divorced. Worth, according to public records, somewhere north of $12 million. And according to Gloria's notes, he and Danielle had been together for 14 months. 14 months. Longer than some marriages. Long enough that Marcus started doing the math in his head and felt sick. But the last page of the folder hit him like a truck. It was a document. A legal document. A deed of property transfer, partial ownership of one of Derek's Columbus condos, filed 2 months ago. In Danielle's name. She hadn't just been cheating. She had been building a life. The second twist came from a place Marcus never expected, his daughter. One evening, he was helping Zoe with her homework when she looked up and said, very casually, "Daddy, who's Derek?" Marcus felt his chest cave in. "Why, baby?" Mommy was on the phone with him when she thought I was sleeping. She said she was going to tell you soon. She sounded like she was crying. Marcus held it together long enough to kiss Zoe on the head and send her to brush her teeth. Then he sat at the kitchen table and wept, quietly, with his forehead pressed to the wood, for the first time since that Friday night in October. He could have exploded. He could have screamed, smashed things, aired everything on social media the way the internet would have cheered for him to do. The clip of Danielle in the VIP box was already circulating online. People were tagging him in videos. Strangers were calling her a monster in comment sections. But Marcus Reed was a history teacher. He knew what happened when people made decisions in the fire of their anger. He made an appointment with a lawyer instead. He documented everything, the PI's folder, the property deed, the phone records Gloria had obtained legally. He quietly moved money into a separate account for Zoe's future. He was calm. He was careful. He was breaking apart on the inside, and absolutely iron on the outside. He told Danielle they needed to talk, 1 week before Thanksgiving. She came home to find Marcus sitting at the dining room table. No dinner cooking. No TV on. Just silence, and a manila folder in the center of the table. Marcus? What's going on? Sit down, Danielle. She saw the folder. She recognized it immediately. Marcus watched the color drain from her face in real time. I want you to know, he said, voice steady, that I'm not angry anymore. I was. I sat in that chair over there and I watched you on live television, and something in me just turned off. Like a light. Danielle opened her mouth. He raised one hand, gently. I'm not finished. He told her what he knew. All of it. The 14 months. The condo. The legal filings. He watched her cry, and he felt nothing. That was the part that scared him most. The nothing. I filed for divorce this morning, he said. The house will go to me. Zoe stays close to her school, close to her life. The lawyer says I have a strong case. The property you transferred, that's going to be a conversation, legally. Marcus, please. I want you to look at Zoe tonight when she goes to sleep, he said. Really look at her. And then I want you to think about whether whatever you found with Derek was worth what this is going to cost her. He picked up his car keys. He drove to his mother's house. He sat on her porch and finally, for the first time in weeks, he breathed. The months that followed were ugly in the way divorces always are. Danielle and Derek's relationship didn't survive the public exposure. As it turned out, Derek had been telling Danielle he was separated from his wife. He wasn't. Derek's wife filed for divorce. The condo deal collapsed in litigation. Derek's company lost 2 major contracts when the story went regional. $12 million doesn't disappear overnight, but reputations can. Danielle ended up in a 1-bedroom apartment in Westerville, alone, rebuilding from scratch. She got what she had always wanted, a life separate from Marcus. She just hadn't understood what she was trading it for. Marcus Reed stood at half-court on a Tuesday afternoon, watching his junior varsity kids run drills. Zoe was in the bleachers, doing homework, occasionally stealing glances at him to make sure he was still smiling. He was. It took time. It took a grief counselor, a lot of long runs, and more turkey sandwiches than he could count. But Marcus Reed was still standing. A student jogged over and said, "Coach, you okay?" Marcus looked around the gym, the scuffed floors, the flickering scoreboard, the sound of sneakers on hardwood, and he said something he actually believed. Yeah. I really am. Some people will love you quietly, faithfully, completely, and you won't notice until you've lost them. And by then, the whole world already knows what you threw away.